hosted by your friendly neighborhood PhD.
Hi, everybody. It's another episode of the Tye Pod, and I'm joined by Mandy Salas today. And I definitely am looking forward to talking about, kind of your history and experience with disability, and then the different parts of your life, that you have that are important to you now. And, I know you have family life going and your kids are back to school and a lot of things happening at once, but I'm glad to have you on and visit a little bit about your story.
Absolutely. Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, for sure. I kind of want to start with the icebreaker a little bit. Is there a song in your life, maybe back when you were younger or even now, something that kind of resonates with your journey and disability and everything? Like, how is there anything that comes to mind right away on that?
I feel like this is a little cheesy, but the first thing without knowing that question was coming is probably the Don't Stop Believing
Yep.
by Journey. Just obviously, I think it's the most downloaded song in the world or something, but it's what I feel, especially coming off of the heels of Disability Pride Month and seeing all of the posts and seeing all of the stories that people shared during the month of July, I really just did feel a lot of pride for how resilient we are as a group and as a community, and that we just don't let things stop us. And so, anyways, that's the first song that came to my mind.
Well, that's exactly why I like to ask it, because I mean, even though it's a very highly listened song, it's still, I mean, it is for good reason, right? Like it does fit. Yeah, and actually, with Disability Pride Month, do you have like a strategy for like how you interact or post during those times, or is it something that kind of ebbs and flows each year? Or
Yeah, I mean, I think it's, it's one of those tricky things when you have the awareness months or the pride months, because then you're like, okay, what are we doing the rest of the year, right? Like, why can't it be Disability Pride Month all the time? So
right,
I like to also bring things up like that throughout the year. But of course, they select these months so that it can be focused on, and I get that as well. So I always like to, post a few things. I kind of like to wait until after the first of the month because I feel like everybody's waiting for that first of the month
true,
to post. And again, it's great to see everybody's stories, but I like to remind people like a week or two in that we're still in this month,
right.
Awareness Month or Pride Month. So
It's not like
like
the first of the month and then it's over.
right,
Yeah,
exactly. It's or even the first few days of the first week. So I usually put my posts a little later in the month just to like keep the awareness going and be like, okay, if you saw some posts that resonated with you early in the month, let's remember them and remember why we're trying to celebrate this, right? And either
right,
be aware or have the pride or both, of course, and then keep pushing it through to where it's not so short.
right. No, I totally agree with you there. And it is very easy for people to look past that month too and say, well, like we'll just focus on it here and then we'll forget about it the other 11 months of the year too. And
Definitely.
I don't know, it's a love-hate relationship in a way, I guess, with awareness and pride type months and things, but it is important to remember it's every day, basically.
For sure,
um,
for sure. So I'm
yeah,
always trying to bring that back too.
yeah,
But yeah, like that's why I mention it now too. Even though we're mid-August, it's you know, it's still fresh in seeing all of the stories and I enjoyed that.
right, right. Totally agree. Do you like during that month, do you um, just pick certain topics that are important that you want to get a message out for, or do you even try to like maybe attend any of the events specific to Pride Month, anything like that?
So I do try to push more speaking then and
Mm-hmm.
more of the like inclusive workspace stuff, so
Mm-hmm.
I speak about resilience in general, but then the disability inclusion. So I try to do those months. Obviously, that's another good thing about having the Pride months is they, focus on having more events centered around them.
Mm-hmm.
So I try to do that. Something that I did this year that I didn't realize how powerful it would be, but I want to continue doing it in future years is my accident actually happened on July 30th. So
Okay.
I spoke on July 30th, and we, especially in the spinal cord community, call that our life day, so it's the day we definitely could have died, but somehow
Mm,
survived. So um just sharing that and even talking about the accident and bringing that up, and the way the perspective is so important on how you look at it and how much attention you give to it, in a negative or a positive way. And I I really felt like it brought my message home stronger, but also was really good for me. Um, it was almost like a catharsis to do it on my life day,
That's what I was going to ask, if it was kind of is it therapeutic, and has it always kind of been that way, or is it a little bit traumatic to revisit, like at times?
Yeah, so I didn't start speaking until a few years ago, and I've been
Uh-huh.
injured for 33 years. So,
Okay.
people have asked, of course, how I was injured, and I haven't ever had much of a problem with it. I think before, uh, in the early years, maybe the first 15 to 20 years even, I tried to not necessarily ignore the day, but just not
Mm.
give it a whole lot of attention, not give it the downer vibe, or like the
Mhm.
just try to live past it and not think about, the bad parts of that day. And then, yeah, then when I heard somebody talking about their life day, and I thought, well, that's a really good way to put it, where, of course, and there was someone very close to me that passed away in the accident. So,
Mm.
like, I want to honor her as
Yeah.
well. Of course, it's sad, but there's just, different ways to deal with that death and that passing and that grief. That doesn't have to bring me down and make me stay in bed all day, but at the same time, honor her and honor that I'm here and what am I going to do with
Yeah.
today, and the next however many days I have left on this planet. So I think that became a really powerful and positive momentum,
Mhm.
especially this year, that I want to keep moving forward. We'll see. It may not work that way every year, of course, but I think
Right.
it was a really motivating time this year.
Yeah, definitely. I know it can be something that just, when it feels right, it's really good to be able to get out and share that experience with other people. And then obviously if they have experienced something similar or going through something, like that, any way that I feel like our message can resonate or help somebody else going through it too is kind of a big deal.
Exactly.
Yeah. Going into the accident and how everything happened, if do you want to share just a little bit of like some of the main things that happened, what caused it, and things, just whatever amount you're, comfortable talking about?
Sure. So yeah, so I was 16 and I was living abroad with a family in Argentina. So
Mhm.
I was doing a language immersion program for the summer, and we were about 6 weeks through an 8-week program. So I was speaking Spanish pretty well. I was really in love with the country, with my host family, with the food, the culture. Everything was amazing. And we decided to do a road trip to the Iguazu waterfalls, which are very, very famous, which I didn't realize then. I mean, I had seen pictures of it when I got there, but didn't realize, that this place existed until I was there. And I asked them about it, and it was always like really far away. And, I don't know if we can do this. And it was like, okay, well, sometime in the future, I got to make it here. I didn't realize this place existed. But then
Sounds
they said, you know
amazing.
what? Yeah, right. I mean, just like one of the most amazing things you've ever seen. And so yeah, so there was the kids had, my host brothers and sisters had a 1 week break. And so they said, you know what? Maybe we'll just throw everybody in the car and do a road trip.
Mhm.
Obviously, flying everybody there would be super expensive. Uh, so yeah, so threw everybody in the car at 5 a.m. and started driving about 13 hours into our drive, 13 or 14 hours into the drive. Um, Something must have happened to one of the tires.
Mhm.
And we started swerving side to side and just ended up sort of careening off of the pavement. And then the car started flipping over. So I broke my neck on probably the first rotation because that's when I blacked out. And then I woke up outside of the car. So I now know that I was ejected. So me and the host mother um, were ejected. So she passed away and I somehow made it. Um, and then yeah, everybody else had some injuries, but not
Mhm.
as severe. I think because where we were on the passenger side, and then the way that it flipped over, we just got the brunt of the force of the
Mhm.
flipping over. Um, so yeah, so that was in the middle of nowhere in Argentina in 1992.
Wow, and I mean, there probably wasn't really any kind of like hazardous driving area or heavy traffic or anything. It was just
Yeah,
vehicle malfunction and
something. Yeah, there were a lot of potholes in the road, so
mm,
we were trying to go like a shorter route that hadn't been maintained very well,
mhm,
apparently, which we didn't realize, of course, the host dad didn't realize. And so, we would have to like slow down a lot. And yeah, I don't know, maybe the
yeah,
wheels just had a hard time after
hard to
so
say.
long on that. Yeah, who knows? But
Yeah,
it was definitely, yeah, some sort of wheel malfunction,
mm,
um, one way or
just
another.
kind of a freak accident, really. So
Yeah,
all these years later, are you still kind of in touch with the family? Do you go to visit them at all, or have
I
you
do.
been there? Yeah.
Yep, yep, we're super close still. My host brother has a conference in the US every year, so
Mm,
he'll always stop by and see me in San Diego. And then I
nice.
go down every 2 to 3 years. So yeah, we even though we're far away from each other, we've stayed very close. So yeah,
Yeah.
very
Yeah.
happy about that, very blessed.
How is accessibility there now, like with you going to visit and everything? What's it like?
It's not wonderful. So
Yeah.
they are a very generally generous culture and very happy to be helpful. Of course, their infrastructure is, difficult and they can't
Right.
deal so much about it on their own. But um, I would say it's tricky because, Buenos Aires is a huge, huge city, and that's where all of them live now. So I just usually go to the city to see them.
Mhm.
Um, and like the city itself isn't too bad, but for example, so I have a power chair that's, 400 and something pounds
Right.
without me in it, right? So,
A little bit heavy, aren't
um,
they?
yeah, they're a little tricky to just sort of carry around places. So what I've had a hard time finding is transport. So
Mm,
I've only found the last few times I've been there, there's only one guy that has kind of like a rickety lift that I'm always afraid is maybe not going to
oh,
hold me very well to
yeah.
get me to the airport and back. And then I bring my manual chair like I can be in my power chair when I'm at the home base of wherever
Mhm.
I'm staying. But if we're going to leave for the day, I'll just take like a taxi in my manual chair. And, somebody has to obviously carry me in and out of the front seat of the taxi, but um, that makes it easier to, you know, be confident that I'll be able to get into places without,
Yeah.
needing five people to lift me into like
Right.
a
Right.
restaurant or something. Yeah. So it's not terrible, but it's
But not
definitely
great.
not great. Yeah.
Right. Right. Yeah. I know what you mean too on those lifts when they, when they're older, when they kind of make some noises and act like they're going to get stuck or drop you
Right.
or
And they look
something. I
like
mean,
they're really struggling, you're like, oh God.
that's a lot of anxiety
It
every
is.
time.
It
Yeah.
is.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's really cool though that you've, kept contact. And I'm sure that relationship between you and your host family, is like really strong even now, it sounds like. So,
It's very powerful. Yes.
yeah. So what was it like kind of after that with recovery and getting back to the, where you live back home, and what was that kind of process like for you coming back?
Coming back, yeah. So yeah, I'm from San Diego and
Yeah.
I coming back. So there's a couple things that I think are worth mentioning. So when I was first injured, I was in the hospital in Argentina for about 2 weeks. And the doctors there were really, again, I feel like they were sort of like my host family. Like they were very warm, they were very tender, they were very kind. And they saw that I wasn't super aware of what was going on. Like I was a little, I think obviously traumatized and
Mm,
loopy, but I had an athletic background. I was a soccer player and it was really drilled into me, especially at the age of 16, that we can control how we react to things that we can't control on the field, right? So
Mhm.
how that translates into life, of course, is where it became more magical. But I was in the phase of my athletic career where there were always recruiters that nobody knew
Mhm.
who was coming, like college recruiters or national team recruiters or things like that at high levels. So they would always train us, my coaches, to not let things bother us, so to like really just sort of snap right back up and show that you were controlling the controllables. So my first reaction to this was like, okay, well, this is just another injury, like I never knew anybody that had a spinal cord injury or that had something that changed their body in a way that they were never going to come back from. Like it was sort of like just seemed like another sports injury to me. And they allowed me to be in that space for those couple of weeks. Of course, I was on a ventilator, like I was definitely, you know, shaken up. Like I definitely felt like I got hit by a truck, but I
I
didn't
can't
see
imagine.
like, right, like I did, but I didn't feel like it was insurmountable. Like, I was in a lot of pain and whatever, but I was like, okay, just have some patience with this, And they were okay with that and didn't feel the need to give me that, one sentence that so many people hear that you're never going to walk again. Like,
Right.
why do you have this attitude? Like they didn't feel like pounding me down like that. So I had those 2 weeks in Argentina. And when I came back to the US, then of course that's when it all changed. And that's when they're like, I literally had a nurse be like, why? Like, you need to accept this. Why are you in such a good mood all the time? Like you need to
They actually
start
said,
literally, literally
wow,
waited for my parents to leave and sat down with me, like she was, I guess, trying to be helpful, but like was
wow,
like, why you need to deal with this injury. You need to stop. Cause I was
as
like,
if you weren't dealing with it in your own way
all
already.
right.
I mean,
Yeah. And like, I was like, I'm gonna move again. I'm gonna get out of this chair. And like, you can't tell me that I can't. And
right,
she was like,
right.
well, you need to start dealing with this. And I'm like, really? Like, what? Is
I
this your
mean,
life or is this my life? Like, it's like,
exactly, exactly. Like the assumption that you wanted to hear or needed to hear that kind of advice. I mean, that's wow. That's a little
yeah,
bit that's over crossing over a line. Yeah.
right.
Yeah. And
Definitely.
so like
So,
were they all in general, like all the medical staff and everybody you worked with like that?
no, there were definitely like two or three
Okay.
people that were, I mean, because all my family, they were with me, they were on my side. They were like,
Right.
if there's a 1% chance you're gonna get through this and you're gonna move again, let's go with that. Like, why
So there
would
was
we
your
not?
support
Right.
system.
Yeah.
Like you
So
don't need those comments.
exactly. So I had, we had, so it was like us versus the hospital in many ways. And, but there were, a couple of nurses and a couple of, respiratory therapists. And
Hmm.
there was one doctor that was like, let's move those fingers so you can go flip off all those doctors. Um,
Hey, there you go. That's the right attitude.
exactly. So I definitely had some support, but we felt more isolated here for sure.
Yeah.
And I, definitely feel that it it's an issue. I don't know if it's a problem because of malpractice lawsuits or something about our culture, but I've talked to other people over the years, and again, especially as I've been doing more speaking, and I'm also working on writing a memoir and just
Hmm.
trying to figure out some of these themes. It does seem that in the Latin community, the medical professionals have a lot more compassion. And, it's not that they're, holding your hand and giving you massages and,
Right.
like it's not over the top, but just a subtle difference in the way that they treat you a bit more
Hmm.
human seems to be seems to be a thing. And I don't know, obviously it would be a long road to change, but it's conversations I would love to start having with more people in the medical community, like what is false hope really? Like if, yes, I
I
didn't move my arms again, but at the same time, at 3 weeks post injury, why are you gonna break me
right,
down,
right. And I mean that kind of, I don't know, it's not like you're being toxic in a positive way. It's like, like,
Yeah,
but it's kind of the leaning that to that side is quite a bit better than giving up, basically. I mean,
exactly.
and I still look at it like whatever movement function, like even if it's just sensation that we can still feel. I mean, like whatever
Sure.
we can regain or maintain on that side should be like I would think a realistic goal that, you know, doctors and nurses would kind of want. And that, you hate to
Definitely.
generalize for everybody, but it does seem like this tendency, to always be in that kind of negative headspace, it seems like.
Right. And I don't know, I guess we're used to seeing people be really down in ICU, but at the same
Yeah,
time, if they're not, do you have to bring them down there? I don't think
right.
so.
And
Like
you mentioned you were on a ventilator and things too. Like, were you able to kind of get off of that fairly quickly, or what was that kind of
it so it
recovery
took
like?
7 months.
Okay.
I was in and out of ICU for for about 7 months,
Mhm.
dealing with a lot of pneumonia and
Mm,
I would get strong enough. So basically I started being able to breathe a little bit on my own when I was in Argentina, but then when I came back I had a staph infection that they didn't want me, breathing on my own for a while. So we had to get rid of that. And then that took a couple of months. And so then when that was finally gone, then I could start breathing on my own again. So I had lost some of my, the muscle and the diaphragm control and things like that. So then it was really hard to start breathing again, but I just needed the stamina. So that's what took so long is the stamina and I would start to do more in terms of like a rehab or even just getting up and being in my chair and that type of rehab, from being laid out and flat on my back for so many months. And then it would, then all the mucus would get dried up and then I would get pneumonia again and I'd have to go back to the ICU. So um, those 7 months I would say were definitely tricky and sort of touch and go, and they weren't sure if I was going to get off the ventilator. I might always have needed it at night, um, but luckily it was just a waiting game of building that stamina and figuring out, how to not overwork myself and be able to be taking enough fluids and all the things that, were
all the little tasks that you have to do to maintain, and
yeah, and
yeah,
all the little adjustments that can
right.
really be detrimental or really be helpful. So all those little things that I finally did learn and was able to get off the vent. But I got off, like a few days before they sent me home. So
Mhm.
they really obviously wanted to make sure that it was going to be good to keep me off for the rest of my life, hopefully. And
Right.
so far so good. Uh, but yeah, it was definitely a tricky time and what kept me in there for so long.
Yeah, I definitely understand the whole ventilator side. Like I'm currently on a portable one, after my ICU experience. And there's so many little things that you have to worry about with those. And it's just like
All the time.
a
Yeah,
full-time job almost maintaining that side of things. So yeah,
for
it's
sure. And
complicated.
a lot of
Yeah.
anxiety, of course.
Yeah. So
Breathing
like,
is important, of course.
yeah, for sure. But your care team, like, I'm sure it's evolved and kind of changed as you've, experienced different doctors and everything. But how is it now? Like, do you have a good care team? And is it something kind of routinely, just check in and monitor everything?
Yeah, so it's funny because the one of the doctors that he wasn't necessarily like on our side and saying that I would walk again, but he was a fresh doctor and he said, I've been a doctor for like 6 months, and
Mm.
I had to tell a guy once that he was never going to walk again. And 3 months later, he walked out of the elevator right in front of me and turned around and said, "Hi, doc, nice to see you." So he's like, "I'm never going to say that to anybody ever again." So, even though like he wasn't, yeah, you're going to do this and yeah, you're going to get out of this chair and whatever, he was definitely not feeling the need to
Mm.
bring me down. So, he's still my doctor, so it's been again
Wow, that's really
33
good.
years. And and obviously he and I know how we work. So, I think over the years I have definitely come into new doctor relationships
Mhm.
with definitely more confidence, of course, and maybe even a little cockiness because I was in the hospital for so long and I feel like I'm really the only one that knows my care, like
Right. I mean,
I
you're the
understand
expert on you, right?
absolutely, and I understand that they go through a ton of school and there are things that they know that I don't know, but
Very
at the
true.
same time, like you gotta listen to me, dude. Like I,
Well, it's
like
a team, like it's a collaboration, not like one side telling the other what to do.
exactly, exactly. And so, I've had to, over the years, just explain to some just primary care doctors that weren't necessarily specialists in
Mhm.
spinal cord or rehab or anything, how my bladder management works and that I, need to have antibiotics on hand. And like I always try to get a culture when I need one. But
Mhm.
uh, if I'm going to stay out of the hospital, which we both want, then I need you to be able to give me antibiotics before. And I'm not going to overtake them, so things like that where I, don't come into like I'm a nice person still, but I don't come into any relationships at the beginning with doctors or nurses, like they don't know what they're talking about. But I definitely have to come in with a stronger personality than I do on a daily basis, um,
Right. That
just to make
assertiveness
sure
kind
that
of, yeah,
they're okay with that symbiosis, that they're okay working together. Uh, and so yeah, so my doctor here in San Diego, I mean, he is the rehab doctor, so
Mhm.
I don't go to him for everything, but but it is nice that he's been there from literally the very beginning of it
Kind of
all.
day one almost. Yeah.
Yeah, when I've
Yeah.
told him like even when he retires, he's got to keep his license so that he can help me.
Right. Right. And that's
No,
interesting
but
too, that you've kind of stayed with him through his career, after he was an early, like a new doctor, and then
yeah, it's been a long
now.
time.
And that, I mean, that
Yeah,
has to be a good experience for him too, I would imagine, like your perspective and things too, and just
for so
being
long.
being
Mhm.
aware, because I don't know that doctors don't necessarily have that experience or connection with people with, really severe like disabilities and things. And sometimes they have assumptions with that. And it's like, well, now that you actually know somebody and can follow their journey and see what the challenges are, what the solutions are, like just I don't know. I think that there needs to be almost like I don't know, like a pair off program, or like, like where a
Definitely
doctor spends time with a patient or something. I don't know. It seems like something
more
like
of
that could
that
help. Yeah.
for
Yeah.
sure. Again, with just getting that more compassion in on the
Yeah.
side of medical care and the bedside manner and the treating people like humans, I think is would be a good change,
True.
especially in the US.
Very true. Yeah. It's a persistent problem. It doesn't seem to be state dependent either. It's kind
Right.
of a full spectrum thing. But
Yeah.
like so where, like with your story next, after you had recovered and everything, we're kind of back home, how did it evolve into like, you kind of figuring out what you wanted to do next, or like what career did you want to pursue, like what route did you kind of take with all of that after you got home?
Yeah, so I think being 16 was almost a really good age for all of this to happen because I came back. So my summer abroad was between my junior year and senior year in high school. And so when I came back, I was the first semester in the hospital. But I was able to, do some independent study and get through my
Mhm.
one credit that I needed. I only needed one credit of English. So then I went back to school. and finished with my class. I needed to take, I think, 3 classes for the second semester, so it was perfect. It was, my days were short. I was in and out, and I was wanting to work on my rehab anyways. So that was all perfect. But then watching all my friends go away to college,
I was wondering that probably had to be
then it was
tough.
like, okay, like that's tough and that's a bummer that I should be with them. But, at the same time, I'm gonna give all of my energy and my time and everything I can. Like it works out that I didn't have time to apply for college in the fall, even though, like I'm better physically, but I'm gonna have to wait a year. So I might as well use that year for rehab and see how much mobility I can get back. And then I'll go off to college. And so, even though I didn't regain the mobility that year, it did get me much stronger, just
Mhm.
in general, being able to have more stamina to do more things. Like I think it would have been a little rough if I did push myself to apply for college, even though I like there there wasn't any way I would have been able to in the hospital. But
Yeah.
at the same time, if it would have worked out to where I could have gone that spring, I think I would have had a lot more problems. Like I would have had a lot more medical issues because I wasn't that strong. And I think that the year off where I was watching my friends and like living vicariously through their freshman
Mhm.
year, I was like, okay, I'm coming. And it pushed me to work hard in my therapy and to get ready for all of that. So I think it was just the right time because I could go to college and have that buffer between, teenage years and adolescence and real life and what, that was going to look like. It was always my plan, of course, to go to college. So I was going to stay on my plan. And that was part of how I really reconciled with not being able to move again.
Mhm.
Obviously that was a blow, but at the same time, it was like, okay, but there was all of these other dreams and all these other things that I wanted to do before I got hurt. And I mean, I'm not going to be on the college soccer team, but other than that, like I can go
All
do
that's still there in front of you, basically.
all of that stuff. Like what is keeping me back except for myself? Nothing. So I ended up going to Stanford. That was my dream school. I had a
Nice.
lot of friends that were there, and like the soccer team, I had a lot of friends on the soccer team, and they,
Did they
like
kind of
gave
help you
me,
transition into college life and everything?
they did, and like gave
Yeah.
me some of their gear, and like I would go to some like meetings every now and then, just to ease into it. I definitely go to all their games, and so yeah, so I mean, it was trickier than I thought because, moving into a bigger world where it wasn't the big world yet, but it wasn't high school, right? So people didn't know my story, right? They didn't know me before my accident.
Mhm.
So, I had pictured like meeting all my best friends and it was harder to meet people. Obviously, like
Right.
if I was playing soccer, there's, whatever, 18 girls right there that you're with all day long. But also, like where was my new home?
New
Where was my
connections, or
new
yeah.
place? And, like the, I definitely it was a tricky place to be because talking about like this disability pride, like I was happy that I had my wheelchair that could take me to places and that I was on a college campus that was accessible and very aware of
Mhm.
accessibility and I could go get to most of the things, not everything, but most of the things that I wanted to go and see and experience and things like that. But yeah, the friendship factor was a whole new thing that I really had
Yeah.
to figure out because now there was a physical barrier with the wheelchair that was obviously something I didn't have to deal with before, but
Yeah.
also something I didn't really understand. Like I didn't understand how people saw it or didn't see it, like I'm sure you have realized over the years that there's some people that just come and talk to you like a human and barely seem to
Right.
care. And there's
Right.
some that are like really freaked out by it and, you know, can get over that. Like it's
It's a
always,
little bit awkward too. Yeah.
yeah. And it's always
Yeah.
sort of something I want to try to get them through and like, you know, help them through that fright or whatever it is, or that,
That's true. It's like it doesn't necessarily mean that they're bad or like intentionally ableist or whatever. It's like sometimes they legitimately need to be, like have conversations with you about it and become aware. Like that's a thing for sure.
yeah. And they need their hand held a little
Yeah,
you know, make you be like, it's okay. Next time you meet somebody in a wheelchair, hopefully you're not
it's
as
gonna be
like, you know,
different.
clearly terrified. Uh, but yeah, so you know, I didn't, it was something I had to navigate for sure of like
Yeah,
how where those people are and come from and who in the disability community are like my people, you know, and like
yeah,
it's just like anything, like there's your people and there's people that are not your people, and it doesn't have to be everybody in a chair just because they're in a chair, or everybody that is an athlete just because they're an
exactly.
athlete. There,
Right.
it's all sort of, yeah, a sifting through and figuring it out. So I would say that was something that, again, I think college was really good for before I got into the big world.
Right, right.
Um, and that was really a lot of things that I learned about myself and about, you know, my caregiving team and
Yeah.
about how we all would fit
What was
into the
the
world.
like coordinating the care team like for you on campus? Like that, I know from experience that that's a really daunting, difficult thing to try to figure out.
Oh my gosh. I mean, I was, you know, at first kind of like excited that I was going to be able to like train people kind of on my own. You know, I had
Kind of like
my
independence too.
exactly like, you
Yeah.
know, like going to college, you know, like having things done the way I want them done instead of the way my parents are teaching people, you
Right.
know, little nuances, nothing crazy, but at the same time, it was something I was excited for. But then, yeah, just obviously the anxiety of when somebody doesn't show up or the ones that don't communicate well. Again, this is like I went to school in 94. So,
Yeah.
you know, there's no texting and cell phones and um people just wouldn't
Not
show
much
up
internet
or
even then at that point. Like,
yeah, exactly.
yeah.
Like it wasn't as easy to get a hold of someone. So, we ended up before I went to school, my parents helped me find one like really solid roommate
Hmm.
that was my caregiver that was going to help me sort of lead the team. And thank God for her. Like she was amazing and still is a really good friend of mine and uh made all of that anxiety much easier. You know, of course,
Yeah.
it was difficult at times when people were not as reliable, but yeah, 24-hour care. So, you know, I had I think four or five people
Yeah.
that we had to find and we had to train and then, you know, be ready when they were ready to leave and, you know, who was going to be doing like the lifting. Obviously, that's a certain type of person that is willing to do lifting. I don't have like
Right.
a Hoyer lift or anything, so they have to do it on their own. And I wasn't that heavy, especially then,
Hmm.
um, but yeah, there are like so many nuances that you understand, I'm sure. But
And also like,
um,
I mean, you're still going to college and taking classes and like that doesn't go away, but you're doing all of
exactly,
this other on top of that. Yeah. Yeah.
exactly, and the paying and the yeah, I mean, just all the stuff was a really big extra layer that I had to
Yeah.
figure out. But
What
again,
was the
like look,
dynamic? Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I just yeah, just to reiterate that I really feel like it was a great practice to do that in college. Like even though it was really hard and I was able to be away from home and figure it out, and it was okay. Like we didn't have any major catastrophes
Mhm.
and nothing that sent me back home. So we did it.
That was
But I
good.
think that was it gave me the confidence to take it to the next level,
Yeah.
which was moving into the world to work.
Yeah. And what was the dynamic for you with the caregivers and like any kind of social type of life interaction in college? Like what was that like to navigate?
Yeah, different for sure. So I have always been, so my mom, so my parents got divorced when I was 3. So
Mhm.
I was always in 2 different households. And my mom and my stepdad always had a lot of like dinner parties and a lot of adults and a lot of people that didn't have other kids that were around.
Mhm.
My dad is a lawyer and, you know, likes to talk and have also a lot of friends. It was a different vibe, but he also would have a lot of adults around. So like I always felt like I could get along with just about anybody with having like 2 different parents that were really very different personalities and
Mhm.
then their friends that were also so different. Um, so I felt like age didn't really matter. But then when you're in a college setting and if somebody's older, then again, like how does the friend dynamic work for somebody that does care or does notice that there's a difference? So yeah, so that was something that I had to sort of figure out and sort of figure like, okay, I'm fine with having somebody that's a little bit older around, but maybe that person is, with me during class time or afternoons when I'm studying, or maybe it's not like the later night or the weekend person, right? So
Mhm.
things like that, because I didn't want them to feel awkward either. Like I didn't want them to feel like people were looking at them weird for,
Right.
being out at somewhere where younger people are like, so yeah, so it had to be something that I realized that it wasn't just about what I was comfortable with. And it also wasn't something that I was gonna completely change just to make everybody else happy.
Mhm.
So it was just finding the balance of those hours, or like what would seem to work best, but it didn't always work
Mhm.
best all the time. And that was okay. So um yeah, I think uh figuring out the way other people work because I obviously need them to be in a good place for them to help me for me to be in a good place.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's definitely a lot of figuring all of that out
Right.
that happened during those years.
Yeah. I like that you mentioned too that it is the other people too that obviously are, maybe experiencing things and to be aware that, they're having certain feelings too and to try to, I mean, it's hard to manage probably that many different, you know, like feelings. And if there's any awkwardness with anybody, it's kind of, yeah, it's a balancing act, it seems like. But
For sure.
yeah, yeah.
For
And
sure.
so as you transitioned like out of college, like where did you go next? Did you kind of know what job or career you wanted to pursue at that time?
So I've kind of figured it out between my junior and senior year in college,
Okay.
where I was getting a degree in international relations. After
Mm.
my experience in Argentina, I really fell in love with culture and like global culture and
Mhm.
how, we can all interact with one another better. But I wasn't sure what that looked like in the job field. So I remember I'd come home from school and was here for summer back at San Diego at my dad's house. And I had to get my wisdom teeth removed. And so I had like
Mhm.
a little bit of painkillers, and I was just like watching TV and like, what am I going to do with my life? And I remember when I was watching the Travel Channel and there was a show called The Lonely Planet that I always loved. And I think it was like a marathon. So it was just going over and over and over again. And I was sitting there like, oh, this is really cool.
Yeah.
And then when I do remember very clearly, even though I was like a little hazy, but there was like a literal light bulb came on when I saw all of the credits rolling. And there were so many people that were working on this show. And I thought,
Yeah.
wow, like, it's just these 2 guys trekking around the world. Like, why are there so many people on a show like that? And I thought, you know what? I bet I could do something. Like obviously not everybody's going on tour with them. Like,
True.
I had experience in traveling to Argentina post my accident. And then my mom actually moved to Europe. So I had some travel experience and knew that traveling with a wheelchair is challenging. And
Yeah.
I didn't feel like, I didn't want to hold the crew back that was going to be traveling all over, but I felt like I could probably do something home base. So I decided that I wanted to work in TV in one form or another.
Mhm.
And I ended up asking some family members that were kind of like, in sales. And so they had large networks of people all over the country, and just said, okay, this is what I've decided to do, guys. And um, my sister was the one that came back within hours and was like, I think I found an internship for you. And turns out she met a guy by the name of Peter Greenberg by the pool. Um, at the hotel that she was staying at. And he worked for the Today Show. He was their travel editor. I think he still is actually.
Okay.
And he was doing shows for the Travel Channel. And so he needed a researcher. And so he was going to give me an internship after we met. So we met the following spring break. I'd talked to him on the phone a few times. And then we met. I came down to LA over spring break.
Mhm.
It's like, you know what? You're about to graduate from Stanford. I think you're very capable. Let's figure this out together. Instead of an internship, why don't you just start working? And I said, oh, okay, that
Mm.
sounds good. So
Perfect.
I had actually had a backup plan to get a master's degree at Stanford in sociology,
Mhm.
because I felt like I might need, more degrees or more something since I didn't really have work experience
Mhm.
before I could get a job.
Yeah.
But he gave me one, and yeah, that was it. So I worked in television with a bunch of different companies and growing different roles as a producer for about 14 years.
Wow, that's really cool. So that did turn into full career basically for you at that point. Yeah.
Definitely. It was
Wow.
great. And it was really to where, Peter Greenberg saw, that I was capable.
Yeah.
I was that age, where I had just figured all this stuff out in college and I felt like I could figure pretty much
Hmm.
anything out. So I felt like I was capable. And so with that synergy, of course, like he had a single level home, so he's like, you can just work out of my house. And then he introduced me to some of his other partners that
Hmm.
did more of the actual Travel Channel production shows. And they said, wow, we think you're amazing. And what do you need? And I said, well, I just need a office space that I can get
Yeah.
into. And so they asked the maintenance guy to build a ramp and they moved their offices to the first floor. And that was it. So that's
Wow.
another thing that I kind of talk about. Like, yeah, I need help, but I don't need that much. Like, build me a ramp
But the
and get me a
flexibility of
headset for
them
my
to do
phone.
that. Yeah. That's
Exactly.
like,
And then I'll run your company for you, like let's do this. Like if you see that I'm capable and I know that I'm
yeah.
capable, like we can do so much. Like we don't
Well,
have to
what was so great too
tiptoe.
is they actually listened and asked you, and then if like all it takes is relocating and building a ramp, like it doesn't seem like that much, but it feels like something that not many companies are willing to do.
Exactly, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And why? And so now there's all these studies, of course, that, having somebody that has a disability or that you're open to any part of the population,
Yeah.
whatever label they have, like will give you so much because there's so many capable individuals. And if they need a little help, just give them a little help. Like
Right.
what, and then see how far they can go,
Yeah.
and what they do for you. So yeah,
Were
so
were
that's
most of those companies good about working with you on that, or did you have some that were more resistant that you kind of had to push back to?
they were all pretty much great. I worked
Yeah.
for, I think, 5 different ones. Mostly it was another Peter and Paul, mostly Peter and Paul, but they, also referred me to the most of the other people that I worked with.
Hmm.
Basically, everywhere I worked, I had a referral from somebody else. So I think that was also huge where um they, without asking the details of like what does she need to work here, it
Hmm.
was she did all that for you. Okay, so let's see what she can do for us. And yeah, and then we would just figure it out together. In terms of, physical office space and
Mhm.
what they needed from me and how I was going to figure out, that I obviously needed space for my assistant and then, okay, let us do our thing. But
Yeah.
but yeah, but I think just really in retrospect, starting with Peter Greenberg to where he's like, okay, you're capable, let's do this. And then
Mhm.
it all just snowballed because somebody
Yeah.
else would take the referral. So yeah,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think that was where the magic happened for sure.
Well, that was
And
nice that
then
you had a wisdom teeth like light bulb moment that led to all that basically. Yeah.
exactly,
So
exactly. All
after
perfect.
14 years of, working in that space, like what, I guess you decided that you needed to make a transition, or what kind of happened
So
after that point?
yeah, so in the Peter and Paul duo, Peter decided to retire.
Mhm.
And so also the landscape in production was changing to where it was 2008, 2009, and the economy had fallen far,
Mhm.
and a lot of the networks didn't want to pay for talent anymore. They wanted reality TV. So this was the time where, like Anthony Bourdain was really big and the Jersey Shore, was
Yeah.
huge. And like
Yeah.
they wanted things like that to where it was regular people, quote unquote, that didn't need to get paid a bunch because they didn't have any money anyways. And they, were following the trend of
Mhm.
this reality TV. And that wasn't anything that me and Paul really wanted to do very much of. And so we helped other people sort of develop ideas. We sold some talent to like the Food Network. We sold a game show, like little things that we were dabbling in, but
Mhm.
things were definitely slowing down. And it gave me a moment to reflect and think, like I just had these last 14 years, basically. It was probably 12 years at that point.
Mhm.
But, where it's been amazing and everything is crazy and I feel like my hair's on fire all the time and there's all these deadlines and it's wonderful. Like we're meeting them and we're doing great together. But do I want to find another company like that? Do I want to do that again? Or do I want to find something with more balance
Yeah.
and something where, I was like 30 at the time. So it was like, okay, do I want to 32 maybe? But anyways, do I want to do another round of that? Like
Yeah.
how much more of that do I want? Or do I want to find something that's a little less or where do I want to go with this? So
Mhm.
my decision at that point was to kind of like still like go easy on the production stuff. But what I really decided my mission was to find a partner and to think about a family because it was time in a woman's life of
Yeah.
when to start thinking about that. And I hadn't really, like there was a couple little sort of romantic things that had happened
Yeah.
over the years, but it wasn't anything that was, life changing and or like,
Yeah.
anything that I was
Well, and your career was kind of it was
exactly. I
so
was
busy too.
definitely
Yeah.
married to my job and it was great. And
I feel
I
that.
loved it. Yeah. And I didn't realize that I hadn't seen much beyond that. And that was okay
Yeah.
because again, it was like the timing was right to think about something else.
Mhm.
So yeah, so then I decided, okay, I should actually try to put some effort into finding a partner. And like I've never really tried. I don't know if it's gonna work, but I've never like really tried.
Yeah.
So I was actually overseas when I had that moment. I was visiting my mom and I came back and I joined eHarmony
Mhm.
uh and met my husband on my first date.
Oh,
So
wow.
my
Well,
future
that's,
husband on my first date.
yeah. And that was kind of that was the phase where it was kind of just what eHarmony and maybe Match, like they were probably just a
Exactly.
couple.
That was it.
Yeah.
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 Not like now. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Now it's a little bit crazier.
a little wild out there, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, so I had known some people that met their people, met their partners on Match.
Mhm.
But I felt like, I don't know, I think also at the time there was so many commercials from eHarmony that I was
Yeah.
like, okay, well maybe I'll try them. Like I didn't know uh, that they were a much more elaborate process.
Mhm.
But anyways, but I was like, oh, they're having a free weekend. It was like Labor Day or something. And
Yeah.
so I'll go with them. And then yeah, it worked out that that's where I found my person. And then um over the next couple of years, I still sort of was like dabbling in production
Mhm.
and keeping the company afloat, but not the way we were before. And so my partner, who we were still dating at the time, but he is a chef and wanted to open a restaurant. And we were in LA at the time,
Mhm.
and both of us didn't necessarily see, I mean, if we needed to stay, like if production was really going really well for me, then maybe we would stay, but I wanted to come back to San Diego anyway.
Mhm.
And he was like, well, why don't we open up a restaurant in San Diego? So um we started on that process and in the meantime got married. Um Also decided to start working on a family and
Mhm.
I got pregnant right away. So my son was born in LA and then we moved down to San Diego a year
Yeah.
later. And then we opened a restaurant and then had my daughter. And so then yeah, the my second career was running a restaurant.
That
Or
sounds really cool though.
helping my husband.
Yeah.
I would say he's really, the one putting the super hard work into it. I do like
Yeah.
the marketing and the accounting and things like
And
that.
is that still a restaurant? You still have it open? Is that currently what you're doing?
So we closed the actual brick and mortar during COVID, but
Right.
it is back up and running at there's an amphitheater here in San Diego that where he was one of the first food vendors when we had the restaurant. And so that has kept going since 2021. So they brought it all back after COVID and he was already sort of grandfathered in, so it was perfect.
Wow. That's really great though that you're able to, kind of come back after COVID because I know that was such a difficult thing
Oof,
for restaurants, especially in that.
it was
I mean, any
brutal.
in-person business actually. But yeah, but thankfully it sounds like things are kind of back to the way
It
they were
worked
before.
out. It
Yeah.
worked out. But man,
Yeah.
yeah, it was a brutal time.
And what is it like being a mom, with disability and everything? I mean, like your children don't necessarily see it either, right? As they grow up around that and everything. It's just like you're
True. Yeah.
their mom, but like what was that whole, I guess, experience like for you?
Yeah. So they're 13 and 9 now.
Mm,
And there's obviously things that they realize that I can't do with them. So
yeah,
a lot of times, I'll be like, your dad's gonna take you paddleboarding, or I'll set this up for you so our friends can take you guys to do this. And things like that they've realized, sometimes they've been like, oh, I wish you could come with me. And I'm like, yeah, I wish I could too. But at least we have this person that's gonna take you, right? At least we, live in San Diego and have all these options
right.
available to us and things like that. So um always trying to, shift the perspective the way that I do myself, but for them. But it's, I felt like at first there's a lot of I think anxiety just
Mm,
as a mom, I'm sure as any parent with a disability, but there's definitely there's mom guilt is a thing where, you feel like if something bad happens to your kid that it's your fault. So luckily, nothing ever super crazy happened, but I was definitely always worried that if something like physical happened to them, where I couldn't have pushed them out of the way of something coming to get them, that, then I would have felt like really less capable of parenting.
right.
But at the same time, I have my caregivers. I was very careful to explain to them those anxieties and
Yeah.
like to really help me watch out for things like that. And uh, even if I was like over paranoid about something, like, sorry,
Yeah.
but that's just my position because of where I am, like
And
it's
honestly, like all mothers, I think have some, kind of worry there and anxiety for sure. So it's
definitely,
like
it's a,
just
so
slightly
much
different,
anxiety.
for you, but still it's, it's still like a human experience of being a mom, it seems like too.
And it's very stressful. It's very lots of anxiety in general. So
Yeah.
I definitely, as they've gotten older, that physical part, they're on their own now, like they
Yeah.
don't need that type of protection. So that's a bit of a relief. But now it's interesting as it's evolved because, now they don't need as much of like the physical coddling and cuddling.
Right.
Uh, Now they need like my guidance as an adult, like as a grown
As
up
they're
around
approaching
them.
like teenage years and everything. Yeah.
Right. So now it's a lot more vocal parenting.
Mhm.
Um, so things shift, every phase of childhood, of course, is different. So once you get used to one, then they grow into the next one. You all have to figure it out together. But
Different
that's sort of
person, kind of.
where,
Yeah.
yeah, definitely. So I think that's where we are right now. Um, just yeah, in terms of things, and also with my speaking and my writing that have helped me uh elaborate and
Mhm.
clarify things that I would love to help other people think about in their lives. And so that has helped me be able to communicate with my kids too and think like, well, think about it this way, if you think about something bad that happened at school and saying it
Yeah.
ruined your whole day, like don't let it ruin your whole day. You have to, kind of come back from that and realize that that was a bad moment. But if you have 24 hours in a day and that was 30 seconds of your day, like, so, things like that about perspective that I'm trying to help the world with eventually, but really they're at good ages right now to be going through things like that to where hopefully I can impart some good tools for them to use in the rest of their lives as well.
I keep thinking too that when kids grow up around disability and things like that, and actually realizing that it's not so strange, like you're still a person and all of that. Like I feel like
Exactly.
that to me is like the wave of advocacy, like going forward. Like we got to get this information out to as many young people as we can, I think. And it's
For
just like
sure.
it's got to be transformative, I would think, in a lot of ways too. So that's I don't
For
know, like
sure.
I have a young nephew now too, and so I'm always trying to figure out like, how to explain things, how to show like, well, you can't touch the wheelchair joystick or, all those kinds of dynamics. But no,
For
it's really
sure.
cool though that that you've had your two kids growing up with you and experiencing that. And yeah,
And just being
it's
helpful too, like the top stuff I was talking about workplace inclusion, but just
yeah,
being helpful in general, that's something
empathy,
that
right?
they
Like,
have
yeah,
definitely grown up with, where they have to open doors for me and like don't, they're not gonna whine about that. Like that's something totally
it's
normal for
second
them. But
nature now. Yeah,
yeah, and like, what I do have to fight with them and argue with them a little bit about is like, okay, so I have my caregiver, yes, but if we have to get ready for a whole day at the beach, like you can help and go get your stuff, and the
right.
faster that you help me, the faster that we all get out of the house together. So,
Mhm.
and if you like see my foot fell off my footrest, pick it up. Like,
Yeah,
yes, I have the caregivers, but like they're doing something else to help you with your day. So like do the and picking my foot up, like that's not something I argue with them about, but in terms
right.
of like timing and being in a hurry or like trying to get somewhere faster, if you help me out, then we'll all get there together,
And it's an
so I think
awareness thing too, isn't it? Like just seeing things and realizing, oh, I can help with this and just like jump into it.
right, and then
Yeah.
nobody has to ask me. So I think
Yeah.
that those are tools that are definitely ingrained in them that
Yeah.
I won't have to like push or elaborate on, that are just growing up around the chair, that I think obviously will be positive for them.
Right, right. Do you feel like your kind of your bond is a little bit stronger, as a result of disability and everything?
I think so. I think
Yeah.
so. And especially, like do like to spend a lot of time with them and make sure, I'm going to all their games and like
Yeah.
doing things or, doing things like skiing with them or, like showing them the things that I can do with them.
Mhm.
Even if it's in an adaptive way, of course, but like that I'm going to do it so I
Yeah.
can spend time with them. So yeah, I think all of that stuff is extra powerful.
Right, right. I do too. No, that's really great that, all of you are experiencing that. I think that's really cool. But yeah, I feel like I could dive into a million different directions, Mandy, but um I like as kind of a I guess final question. Is there something coming up that you're kind of like excited about, looking forward to in the near future that you're working on?
So writing this memoir has
Mm,
started all of this, again, sort of trying to getting myself out there. I've always been more of like an observer and I'm just gonna hang out over here. But I, when I crossed 30 years after my injury
mhm.
and realizing that, so, my caregivers have usually stayed around the same age. Like the caregiver age is like 20s, 30s. And even though I've gotten older,
That's still the range that they're in. Yeah.
there's still that age range. And
Yeah.
so I've been able to help a lot of them and in their like transitions of life and coming to help
Mm,
me because I've had like strange hours that work well with them doing other things in their lives. So I've noticed over the years that a lot of what I've learned post injury and a lot of things that were sort of drilled into me with sports before are all things that can really translate into so many people's lives and help them sort of get through
mhm.
places where they're stuck or where they're not sure. So I, again, after that 30 years was like, okay, like, okay, I've been helping people in my own house for this long, but if it seems to be really helping them, like I could
There's
probably really
yeah.
help people with all of this stuff. And like, why did I, bigger picture, if you want to get a little more ethereal, but why did I get in this accident? If it's not to have a purpose to help people, like why should anything that I learned just die when I die, right? Like there's there there was like a turning point of I want to go and try to help people, if it I feel like I've already seen that people are amazed by my story and I'm like I'm just a human. Why is that so amazing? But
Right.
at the same time, like for them, I need to show that it's shouldn't be that amazing, that it can be normal, it's
Yeah.
hard to like I have confidence in myself that I know I'm capable and cool, but at the same
Right.
time, like I don't feel like it needs to be that extraordinary. Like why can't we all be that extraordinary? If you think it's that extraordinary, then let's be extraordinary together. So
Right.
all to say that I've been working on this memoir for 5 years, maybe a
Hmm.
little longer now, and it's almost done. Like I think by the end of this year, for sure, I'll have it in a publisher's hands and
Wow.
ready to start marketing. And it's probably going to be a hybrid publisher
Mhm.
because I want it to get out there faster. Um, but anyways, I feel like next
You can see the
year
finish line kind of it. Yeah.
next year is going to be all book. Like
Yeah.
it's been all book, but all writing. So it's going
Yeah.
to be all like actually having a product and getting it out there. And again, it's been a journey, but um but an amazing one and
Yeah.
all worthwhile and all productive and all ways to figure out uh, what I'm trying to say and how it resonates with people. And so, yeah, so I've been working on speaking to try to get the word out there more, but also to help me um, make any of these tools more accessible. And um, the book will be coming out probably next year.
Great. Wow, that's got to be. I think I started writing parts of one a couple of years ago, and it's just like this huge mountain of tasks. Like I'm
A
still
mountain.
still
I
trying
have
to figure it out. But
I have a friend that is a very good friend from high school. Her name is
Mhm.
Jennifer, and she was in Argentina with me in a different family, a different city, but
Mhm.
we were really close after I got back from Argentina, and she has been telling me for so many years to write this dang book. And she's like, okay, I'm gonna help you write it. If you're
Yeah,
not gonna do it, we're gonna do it together. So thank God for her
that's got to help, I would
because
think.
I don't know that I definitely would have been as far as we are now without her.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's been really fun to work on it with somebody, especially somebody you're super close with. And that was there for those first few years for sure,
Mhm.
like every day. But I would say without her, I would have been in a similar place, like having some stuff written, but
Yeah,
not a
yeah.
almost
It's
book. Yeah.
yeah, it's a journey for sure. But I'm really excited to see what the stories are there, and yeah, definitely. How would you like people to connect or see what you're doing? Is Instagram kind of your main
I think
location to figure out?
Instagram is,
Yeah.
yeah, I've been trying to develop LinkedIn more also
Okay.
as again more of like what LinkedIn is for as a business and the speaking and the writing stuff. But I would say I really started putting myself out there on Instagram about
Yeah.
a year ago, and I've gotten much more comfortable with yeah, sharing my life on Instagram, and I can
Yeah.
much more easily put my posts up now than I did a year ago. I was like, what is this? What
Right.
do I do?
Well,
So
there's
yeah,
only
so
like 100 different platforms to post things now.
seriously,
So
seriously, and there's so many different ways, again with book marketing coming up, who knows? But I think
true.
Instagram is kind of my happy place right now.
Yeah.
So I would say yeah, it's my handle is Mandy Salas, and that's
Okay.
my Instagram handle. But
Awesome. I'll make sure to include that too in the captions and everything. But I don't know. I really enjoyed, having this kind of conversation, spreading some awareness this way. I think like amplifying stories is one of the best things we can do with these podcasts. So yeah, I really appreciate
absolutely.
it.
I appreciate you. Thank you for having this
Yeah,
podcast and for having me.
absolutely. And sure look forward to the book coming out soon. So
Thank
thanks
you.
again.
Me too.